Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this green-white enchantment deck that I've somehow not covered yet. So now by popular demand, here's Sythis Harvest Hand, a 2-mana 1/2, saying whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we gain a life and draw a card. So this is the dream for any Enchantress style of deck, as we want to be playing lots of cheap enchantments. We have ways to now draw lots of cards, we have other effects that reward us for doing the same, and then we get to run some removal that will draw us more cards. We have some mana acceleration, often in enchantment form as well, and then some nice finishers that reward us for casting lots of enchantments, which we'll naturally get to do when we get to draw this many cards. So then taking a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few categories, starting with the mana section, which is pretty broad. It includes the 1-mana mana elves, which are some of the few non-enchantments in the deck, but these help us get on the board a little bit faster, especially when we're facing some very powerful commanders. It's important that we get our game plan online as soon as possible, and then we've got some other bigger ramp cards or ways to deploy extra lanes. Then we've got our removal section, and this is where enchantments get to shine, since we get to play a bunch of removal spells that can often hit any opposing non-land permanent, so that can cover most angles. And then we've got a bunch more Enchantress style of cards, which will reward us for casting enchantment spells. We've got a few finishers, especially cards like Hallowed Haunting and Sigil of the Empty Throne are great, since they will keep generating more and more tokens, so a simple creature removal is not enough to answer them. And then we've got some more taxation effects, some of these pillow fort enchantments like a Ghostly Prison and Sphere of Safety, which can make it difficult for the opponent to attack us back. And then a miscellaneous section, which includes a few more ways to protect our stuff, giving everything Shroud can be very useful, as well as some other utility cards like Rest in Peace to shut down graveyard strategies. Can also maybe tutor it up with a card like Sterling Grove, which does double duty. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana section, Chromox can let us play Sythis on turn 1, and then we've got our mana creatures, Avacyn's Pilgrim since we're green-white, Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling can make our legends uncounterable, Elvish Mystic and Lenor Elves, and then some awesome cards here include Exploration, as it lets us play an extra land and also counts as an enchantment, so we can maybe play it after we play Sythis, immediately draw a card, which is how we get the ball rolling. And Utopia Sprawl has to enchant a forest, but that's not a problem in a 2-color deck, especially when we have a bunch of fetch lands that can also find additional forests. Then we've got the Nessian Wonder, doesn't ramp, but ensures that we keep hitting our land drops. Sanctum Weaver can make a ton of mana, equal to the number of enchantments we control, so this is one of the all-stars. There's a Wolfwillow Haven, similar to Utopia Sprawl, just a bit more expensive. There's a Naturalist discounting all our enchantments by 1. Arcane Signet still lets us tap it for mana at the same turn, so I still like including it, but not a must-have since it's not an enchantment. Restoration can essentially ramp by searching a plains up, discarding it and putting it in play, but Chapter 2 has a lot of flexibility, can also get one of our 2-drops back. Then there's Dried of the Elysian Grove to play an extra land each turn. Summon Fenrir can also find a land, maybe draw an extra card. Corsair Crewfix can play lands off the top and gain life with Landfall. Enduring Vitality turns all our creatures into mana elves. Nylea gives our creatures a 1-mana discount, can also turn into a 5/6 indestructible creature with enough devotion, and enchantments are pretty good at increasing our devotion since they tend to stay in play. And then the Green Overlord is excellent to ramp, can also impend it early. There's Karametra, finding additional lands when we cast our creature spells, can also turn into a 6/7 indestructible. And then Mirari's Wake doubles our mana and also gives our team +1/+1. Then we take a look at our removal spells, where Seam Rip has been an awesome addition as essentially a 1-mana portable hole, but it's an enchantment. Swords to Plowshares, another one of our few non-enchantment cards, but still great to have. Then there's Baffling End, Journey to Nowhere to answer creatures. Ossification hits both creatures and planeswalkers. Reprobation is awesome for shutting down opposing creature commanders, same with Kenra's Transformation and Trickster Elk. These can be pretty mean, so play them accordingly. And then there's Seal Away to exile tapped creatures. And then at 3 mana we've got some more flexible answers with Banishing Light, Borrowed Time, the Detainments, and Seal from Existence. There's a lot that are very similar. Usually want to play the ones that can exile any opposing non-land permanent. If you're playing in multiplayer, then you probably want Grasp of Fate, which can hit every opponent as well. And then Buried in the Garden is both a ramp and removal all in one. Then we've got additional card draw effects, with Spirited Companion just drawing a card when it enters, but it is an enchantment creature. We've got Enduring Innocence, drawing a card when a small creature enters a battlefield under our control, and most of our creatures are on the smaller side. We've got Enchantress's Presence, just a 3-mana enchantment that will have the same effect as Sythis, just no life gain. Citizen Champion with Constellation, draws a card and gets a +1 counter when an enchantment enters, which is a bit different from most Enchantress cards, which draw cards when we cast an enchantment, so that's a subtle difference. Then there's a Satyr Enchantment, also drawing a card when we cast an enchantment spell, and Eidolon of Blossoms, an enchantment itself, with Constellation drawing a card, so that's also similar to the Citizen Champion. Then we move on to some of our finishers, including the Spring Heart Nantuko, can first bestow it and then maybe make some copies of certain creatures, or can just make lots of insect tokens with Landfall, also good with Exploration and Dryad, letting us play additional lanes, and we've got a bunch of fetch lanes to synergize with Landfall. Then there's Heliod, whenever we gain life can give us a counter, so that happens when Sythis draws a card as well, and can also give stuff lifelink, turns into a 5/5 indestructible eventually. We've got Strength of the Harvest, can double up as a land, but can also be an aura, enchanting one of our creatures, making it huge. Calyx with Constellation gives us a +1 counter, can also maybe copy some of our enchantments if it gets to connect. Don't have a ton of auras, so we're not leaning super into the second ability, but still nice to just get some counters stapled onto an enchantment creature. So I'm not running the 1-drops that have a similar effect, since we also have a few effects that give our entire team Shroud, so then we won't be able to target our creatures with these effects. Then there's Hallowed Haunting, as well as Sigil of the Empty Throne, both pumping out creature tokens, especially the clerics keep getting bigger and bigger, Sigil making 4/4 angel tokens with flying, so these are both excellent at closing out the game. And then the White Overlord can be impended or hardcast, also making some flying tokens. And then we've got our taxation effects with Curse of Silence naming the opponent's commander. Then Eidolon of Obstruction will make the opponent pay 1 mana to activate their planeswalkers, so they won't be able to activate them on curve. There's Ghostly Prison, making the opponent pay 2 for each creature that's attacking us. Don't have any planeswalkers either, so no nombos with Ghostly Prison. And Sphere of Safety can tax the opponent for maybe more mana than they have available if we have enough enchantments in play. And then our miscellaneous section has some protection effects with Alseid, can give protection from a color. We've got Authority, making opposing creatures enter tapped and gain us a life, good against haste threats. The Auramancy gives our other enchantments Shroud, different from Hexproof, so again we won't be able to target our own enchantment creatures if they have Shroud, so we won't be able to place any auras or +1 counters on them, but can still be worth it. Rest in Peace if we need some graveyard hate, can also find it with Sterling Grove, another way to give our other enchantments Shroud, but this one we can also sacrifice if it's inconvenient, but can also tutor up whatever enchantment we want and put it on top, can often draw into it on the very same turn if we have enough mana, since we can just draw into it with our Sythis trigger. Then there's Weaver of Harmony, which can also activate to copy a triggered ability of an enchantment, so it can also maybe copy Sythis to draw an extra card and gain a life, and gives our enchantment creatures +1/+1. And then Destiny Spinner can also make our enchantments uncounterable, and can also activate to animate a land into a big creature equal to the number of enchantments we control. And then the mana base has a few utility lands with Aiganjo and Boseiju, can be another answer to artifacts and enchantments. Lots of fetch lands to find either our Lush Portico to Surveil, Temple Garden, or one of our many basics. And then a recent addition, Yavimaya, turning all our lands into forests, so we don't even have to sacrifice our fetch lands, so we can maybe save them to then enable landfall on the Springheart Nantuko. And then of course we also have Ancient Tomb, tapping for double colorless at the cost of 2 life, can easily make up for that life loss. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Urza, Lord High Artificer. Yeah, we've got a decent hand. Spinner especially in this matchup, making our stuff uncounterable, could be huge. Opponent with the Chromox. So they could have a 2-mana counterspell up. Spinner itself isn't uncounterable. I guess we can go for Sythis. And then next turn go Sanctum Weaver plus Spinner. Yep, opponent had the counterspell. They needed the Chromox for that. That's alright. Buried will be a fine answer to their commander, or the token, if we care about that more. Alright, so now Coast should be clear for Destiny Spinner. And then probably hang on to Boseiju. Can still tap Misty for green thanks to Yavimaya. So Sanctum Weaver can make a ton of mana for us. And there's Urza. So they still have 2 mana by tapping the Construct. So they can equip the boots. Plays the Cryptex. And we get to untap. Alright, so what's my sequencing? Sanctum Weaver makes 2 mana at the moment. If I first cast Buried in the Garden, enchanting a land, tapping Elvish Mystic, I have to play out Boseiju. Then this would make 3 for 5 mana. So then I can still play Sythis and Llanowar Elves. Could also play Sythis first. And then Sanctum Weaver makes 3, 4 with Boseiju, play Buried. And I get to draw a card. Maybe I prefer that. I guess I have to be careful because this does have Ward 1 now. This says creatures and enchantments cannot be countered, but it doesn't interfere with Ward, I believe. Because it counters the ability. So I could leave them with Urza for a turn and just play Weaver. Play Llanowar Elves. And then maybe hang on to Boseiju, since we'll have a ton of mana either way. And then next turn I can maybe bury it in the garden successfully. Either an Archive. So 2, 3, 4, 5. They can still spin the wheel with Urza. They can also tap the boots. Shuffle, exile the top card, cast it for free. Can play it for free, so that also includes lands if they haven't played one for a turn yet. What does Cryptex do again? Makes mana. If they collect evidence. Opponent's just gonna sack the Archive. Finds an Inventor's Fair. That could find something like a Paradox Engine, which we probably want to exile with Buried or destroy with Boseiju. Alright, so step 1. Play Companion. Can copy the trigger with Weaver. Maybe I should be tapping my elves here. I guess what I could also do is copy the Buried in the Garden trigger. Although I kind of want to wait to exile Paradox Engine. Although maybe we're fine to just exile Urza and one of their mana artifacts or the token. We'll see what we draw first. Restoration. And a Hallowed Haunting, that's a finisher. So, make mana, play Hallowed Haunting. 2, 3, 4. I guess I won't have enough to necessarily play Hallowed Haunting, play Buried, and copy it and pay the ward. Although maybe we don't care about Urza. I think we still care about Urza. So I'll wait a turn on Hallowed Haunting. Play this first. Exile Urza. Copy with Weaver. Opponent has a response. Opponent's gonna use Cryptex, make a mana. And Tail's End to counter the Weaver's ability. Should they not have just countered Buried? I guess that's fine. Still pay the ward. That's gone. And then I can still play Hallowed Haunting, I guess. And fly over for 5. So they can shoot or something with Inventor's Fair, but then they won't have much mana left. Still have Boseiju as artifact removal. And now with the Haunting, we can very quickly close out the game. So Urza's back, which means they still have 4 mana here. But yeah, Paradox Engine with Urza's ability can be devastating, because they can keep untapping their stuff, making more mana. And that's how they can potentially cast their entire deck in one turn. Cryptex has 1 counter on it. Needs 5 or more before they can draw with it. Yeah, if I could exile another permanent besides Urza and the tokens, it would probably be the Chromox. That way if they get it back by bouncing my enchantment, at least they would have to imprint another blue card. So Cryptex makes a blue, plays a Power Stone. So they do have some large constructs. Reprobation can shut down Urza, so that seems pretty good. Also can't forget about Destiny Spinner, turning a land into a huge creature. And tap Sanctum Weaver, play Satyr. Play Restoration. Can also copy one of these triggers with my Weaver. At this point, maybe the card draw. And then I guess we'll keep going for a bit. Could still be in danger if there's a River's Rebuke bouncing all my stuff, because then these tokens can get in. So we may want to find some more answers to those. Which I guess was a reason to keep a Boseiju. But I think we'll be fine. So they can activate Inventor's Fair, but Urza no longer has its ability. So they also cannot use Urza to make additional blue mana. So their last card needs to be pretty special. Our stuff now has Shroud. So it would have to be Rebuke or Cyclonic Rift, or maybe some extra turn cards. Although we already see Time Warp and Exile here, imprinted with the Chromox. Alright, Inventor's Fair goes digging. Is there an artifact that can save them? Opponent's gonna find out. The One Ring, I guess that makes sense. So can damage them for a turn. Which means we get to have more fun, so I don't mind. Anything worth getting back? Not really. But I guess we'll just ramp. Alright, so could have also sacked Sterling Grove to get a specific enchantment. Could still do that now. but I don't think there's anything that I necessarily need to get. So we can just kind of keep going off, maybe deal with their tokens just to be safe. So play Karametra. Draw a bunch more cards. Tap the elves, play Courser. Can't forget about my Weaver. Copying a trigger. Could also get the Portico to Surveil. Options aplenty. Curse can maybe name a scary card like River's Rebuke or Cyclonic Rift. I guess I cannot target my opponent, so never mind. But we can exile the One Ring before they get to draw and deal with some of their other artifacts. Sphere of Safety can also protect me. But let's see here, I've got a Borrowed Time. Get rid of the Power Stone, I believe. Play a Presence, although we probably have enough cards as is. Yeah, we can just Pillow Fort with Sphere of Safety and Ghostly Prison. And what do we have in hand? Way too many cards. Alright, I guess I'll just Ghostly Prison. I guess River's Rebuke could still happen for 6 mana. And then we haven't dealt with the constructs. So maybe I should just do this. And keep a Boseiju. Alright. Keep 7 cards. Could be playing Reliquary Tower for games like these, but honestly, if you're in this position, you're doing fine. And sometimes it can be a liability in your opening hand when you need to cast your green-white commander. So let's recap. Urza does not have any abilities. Opponent has 6 mana, 2 cards in hand, facing a lot of damage. And the One Ring is out of commission. Can't even target my Detainment because of Sterling Grove giving everything Shroud. So River's Rebuke is the only card I can think of. I would have named it with a curse if it weren't for the One Ring protecting them. Alright, so it's my turn. 4, 5, 6, 7. If they collect evidence. So they can't Cyclonic Rift me. They might have an Aetherize, bounce all attacking creatures. So we don't want to go too crazy. I guess I could name Aetherize with Curse of Silence and then blow up one of their mana-producing artifacts. So there's a few ways we can go about it. 53 cards remain, so not afraid of decking. And draw off champion. Okay, Calyx on top. So is there anything I need to do? Curse of Silence, I think, is a fine starting point. Name Aetherize. Now they can still cast it for 6 mana. So would have to draw into more answers for their mana artifacts. And we've got a Seal from Existence coming up. So that should do the trick. Let's make some mana. So now they can't Aetherize me, since they can't collect evidence 3. So I think we're good to move to attackers. And let's smash. Alright, and that'll do it. Just over -100. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Atraxa, so this could be a tough one, since we'll have some powerful sweepers. Cards like Farewell come to mind, which can just exile all our enchantments. So what do we think of this hand? Curse can name Atraxa, slow that down, although that's still pretty far away. Sythis into maybe summon Fenrir. It's not the worst hand. Could also wait on Curse and just surveil on turn 1. Try and draw a card with it first. Or we can save it to name one of the aforementioned sweepers like Farewell, which they're pretty likely to have. Cards like Cyclonic Rift can also bounce all our stuff. Opponent is probably going to be ramping in the early turns. As we both surveil. Nope, opponent gets a headquarters. Borrow time is fine, but we already have a seal from existence. So might want to get some more proactive cards. Play Sythis. If I had an extra white source in hand, I would maybe be tempted to wait so we can Sythis into Curse right away and draw a card. But now we can just keep on ramping. Maybe with Summon Fenrir, next turn I can cast the Overlord. Kiora is next. And a Sigil is great if we can get it down. Although I think I still like developing my mana with Overlord. And then we shouldn't be in danger of our opponent casting Atraxa, even with Kiora untapping a land. I guess if that land was Ancient Tomb, maybe, but then they still need 4 colored mana, so yeah, we should have been fine. Although I guess with Dark Ritual they could actually cast Atraxa. Opponent with the Casualties of War. Well, was a nice 3-for-1, still could have been worse. So, now what? I can play 4 mana Sythis and Curse. Or we can go Sigil into Curse, make an Angel, and name Atraxa. Yeah, maybe we get the Sigil going now. It's a bit more mana efficient. So our opponent can cast a 6-drop. It's going to be Vorinclex, so no counters for us. So we can finish off Kiora, and then play Sythis into Seal from Existence. May want to get Temple Garden, in case we need more white. deal with Vorinclex, because if they have another Planeswalker, they could immediately ultimate thanks to the double loyalty, which is quite terrifying. Alright, so we're definitely in command, but you never know against a 4-color deck. Opponent's gonna take a turn off to cultivate. I can protect my stuff with Auramancy. Nightmare first deals with Sythis. So Auramancy could have prevented that. Back to the command zone. Now costs 6. Yeah, I guess we can replay it, play Auramancy. And then Nightmare's not gonna take anything unless we draw a non-creature here. Opponent's at 12. Atraxa costs a whopping 9 mana. So they won't be able to get there unless they have some free mana. Narset needs to find a sweeper. Finds a Thoughtseize. That's not gonna save you, and there we go. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Sephiroth, mono-black sacrifice, and we've got a promising hand. Can go turn 1 halfling, turn 2 Sythis, curse, immediately draw a card. And then Sephiroth will cost 5, so we don't need to worry about it for a while. If they take out the halfling, my sequencing is not quite as good, but opponent taps out for an apprentice. Okay. So we get to stick to the plan. Alright, so far so good. Next turn we could bury it in the garden, although that's also a good answer to a commander, since I'll often send it back to the command zone, so then we don't need to worry about our enchantment getting removed. Although against mono black there's only 2 real, or maybe 3 real answers to enchantment. Invoke Despair at 2 mana can potentially feed the swarm, and at 3 mana there's the new instant as well. Not sure if I'm missing any. This attack... Can't think of many pump spells they would have. But I can also just take 1 extra damage. They might have been planning to sacrifice their creature. Desperate Measures. I guess that one makes sense, so glad I didn't block. Probably wanna bestow the Nantuko if we get the chance, although there's no creature in play that I necessarily want to copy. So we can wait. Bone Shards takes care of Sythis, can just recast it next turn. Don't have much else going on. And no need to Chromox just yet, since I don't have a 1-drop I absolutely need to cast. If they take it out a second time, it's gonna become a little pricey. But given that they're not playing lands, they probably just have a bunch of removal in hand. Dark Ritual, okay. So we're going for Jadar. And Nightmare. Can return stuff out of the graveyard. Probably want to sacrifice the zombie. Alright, so next turn we can maybe deal with their stuff. They can only activate Nightmare as a sorcery, so I could try and exile it with Buried in the Garden. And then I could still keep up Seal Away. Deploying Weaver is also tempting, so we can start copying Sythis' trigger to draw an extra card. But, yeah, it's a close call here. How likely is our opponent to attack with Jadar or Apprentice? Not very likely. So, maybe I do just Bury in the Garden. Hit the Nightmare. Play Weaver. And pass it back. Three mana. Normally they would deploy Sephiroth, but not with our curse. So it's going to be a Bastion. It's a free block. Still get drained. And a Rest in Peace, pretty good against a graveyard deck. So we can start there, see what we draw. Might want to tap the Halfling. And now bestowing the Nantuko onto the Weavers, pretty good too. Gonna wait to see what happens. And yeah, opponent scoops it up. Now creatures dying no longer count as dying. So that's game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Anim Pakal, red-white token aggro. So it would be nice to have some removal, but starting with Utopia Sprawl is still great. On the play, so can't complain. Make sure to play our forests. And then at turn 2, could play Sythis, although I don't have a 1-mana follow-up, so might be better served impending the Overlord. Yeah, that seems okay. And then next turn I can easily double spell. Could even go Sythis, Naturalist, and Nantuko. Just miss out on the landfall, I guess. Alright, Phelia, taxing our non-creature spells. Journey to Nowhere now costs 3. But we can just cast a bunch of creatures instead. Or I can Journey to Nowhere Thalia now, which is also reasonable, but I think this is okay. So then I can still bestow this. No, I cannot. It's only casting. Yeah, maybe I wait, or I just cast it anyway. Would be nice to bestow onto the Naturalist, I guess, but I think we'll be okay. There's Anim, that's a better target for Journey. So I get to gain 2, so no real damage is being dealt. And Eidolon, perfect. So, what's our turn? Play Eidolon, play Journey. Can still maybe play a Companion. And Sterling Grove to give stuff Shroud's also great. Goodbye, Anim. And play Companion. So we're already super far ahead. And the opponent scoops it up. Sphere of Safety also incredibly effective against a go wide strategy. So opponent never really stood a chance. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Facing Emry, so definitely a worthy opponent. Our hand's reasonable. Can't play Halfling turn 1, but can play it alongside a Signet. Opponent with a new Interlacer. And yeah, this card's pretty busted alongside Emry, because it is with starting intensity, which is perpetual. So even if it goes to the graveyard, and then they replay it with Emry, it will have a memory of its previous intensity. So that will just draw them more and more cards. Hope of Girapur can also prevent us from casting non-creature spells turn after turn. So could just Baffling End Emry now. They can pretty easily redeploy it as a problem. But if they sack Hope of Girapur, what's my plan? May have to just exile the Hope. But then they get to go off with Emry and Interlacer. Give stuff hexproof. So this might be my last chance to Baffling End something. I'll still hit Emry. Pandora, just a cheap artifact. Emry's back. we sacking the Hope? We are. Oh, I can at least cast my creatures. Let's go probably for Sythis. Opponent goes for the boots now, so they can protect Emry, but we can just get rid of the boots first. Interlacer draws. Alright, so can go Signet into Banishing Light, get rid of the boots. Hope to draw more answers for Emry. So if they're just getting back Hope of Girapur, they can't attack with it. So I can still cast non-creature spells next turn. They could go for Interlacer. Goes for Power Stone since they need the extra mana. Eidolon we could cast, although... What if I go Enchantress's Presence? Then I get to draw when I play the Eidolon of Obstruction. Ideally I draw into a land. We'll see. Alright, so now I can still play a 3-drop. Dryad's somewhat likely to draw into another land with 2 extra draws. And now I can play an extra 1-drop. I guess Halfling could be relevant. So we're progressing our mana. We are about to deploy our 3rd card draw engine. So we'll see. Emry gets back Moonsilver Key, which has a wide range of cards it can find. Goes for Mox Opal. Free ramp. And now a Fraying Line. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2. If they do, put a rope counter on a creature they control, otherwise exile this artifact and each creature without a rope counter on it. Fair enough. I guess we'll keep Sythis. And then... May not want to play the Eidolon of Blossoms, if I'm reading this correctly. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2. If they do, put a rope counter, otherwise exile it, and each creature without a rope counter. So yeah, next turn our opponent's just going to decline to pay the 2. We get to keep Sythis, everything else goes away. So probably not a turn for Eidolon. Now Reprobation, that's a nice answer to Emry. Make it lose its abilities. Can still play the Haven. Saving my fetch land in case we find a landfall card. And then I still have an extra land drop remaining. Don't know if I should play the birds. I guess it's fine. So our opponent's gonna use a Fraying Line, but Emry still has no abilities. They can destroy Reprobation for 6 mana, but that would be most of their turn. And then I guess with Restoration we could also get a Dried back. Spell Bomb's pretty annoying with Emry, can also bounce itself. Only 1 mana to redeploy. And now a Thought Monitor to draw 2. Their opponent's making progress. I will discard a card. And get this back. And then probably hang on to the transformation as another good answer to Emry. Attainments can exile the Pandora, perhaps. Okay, can still play the Naturalists. Discount my enchantments going forward. And we just want to try and find a win condition. Curse of Silence can also name Emry. Could also name something like River's Rebuke or Cyclonic Rift, which could be dangerous. Maybe we wait since we're not sure. And then just play some Mana Elves. If they do bounce all my stuff, we have a lot of lands in play, so it's not going to be impossible to rebuild. All-out attack, so there might be a mass bounce spell incoming. There's a lot of hovering. I see Battleship to wipe the board. Get back the boots. Back to the command zone. So we'll play Sythis. Now I can name Emry with a curse. Seamerib deals with the boots. And there's Hallowed Haunting, that's what we want. So I can play the Haunting and then still play Companion. Rest in Peace can also deal with their graveyard. And our opponent has seen enough. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Phelia, the mono-white flicker deck. And yeah, our hand is decent. Can play Pilgrim turn 1. Vista gets Forest. And then Grove will be untapped. So ideally we find another 1-mana enchantment that we get to play next turn. Otherwise we have some other options as well. Opponent plays an Inspector, makes a clue. So, do we like summon Fenrir perhaps? And then next turn I can double spell. Yeah, that seems fine. Get some extra mana going. So opponent could flash in Phelia, instead plays Guide of Souls into a portable hole, so that also could have answered Sythis. And now Sythis into Naturalist looks good. I would rather have the +1 counter on the life linker, but I also want to draw an extra card. So that seems more important. And I'll maybe hang on to Eiganjo. Now with our discount, it's going to be easier to deploy my enchantments. Can play the Satyr, follow it up with a 2-mana Seal. Inspector, similar to the Novice Inspector here. And now we'll probably see Phelia. A Reprobation, also a good one to put on Phelia at some point. This turn I'm not opposed to Satyr Enchanter into Seal from Existence. Exile probably the Guide of Souls, which can be scary if it racks up enough energy. And yeah, our opponent's already giving up. We get to draw 2 cards and gain a life, and next turn we're going to have more answers than we know how to use. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Definitely a worthy candidate. So, what do we think of our hand? Sanctum Weaver's great. Can make extra mana, and then we have a lot of removal, which, you know, gives us an answer to Teferi, but we might want more proactive plays we can make. In the face of counter spells especially, we don't just want to sit here and let the opponent develop their mana. So I'm taking Mulligan. This one's a little bit better. Seal away, of course, a dead card, most likely, but Sterling Grove to protect Sythis is relevant. Restoration can also get it back, and then Sigil, one of our finishers. So, for now, pass it back. Don't expect Sythis to resolve if I cast it. So instead, I can try Sterling Grove. So at least creature removal's not going to be as effective. Opponent vetoes. Restoration can maybe get it back next turn. Opponent cycles cast out. And has their own Greater Auramancy. So, can resolve the restoration. And then next turn we can maybe double spell with Sythis, we'll see. We have our 2 win conditions, Hallowed Haunting and Sigil. Do have to watch out for removal that blows up all permanents. And our own Auramancy is nice. So, can put Auramancy in play by discarding it here. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Instead of getting back Sterling Grove, which could also get my creature that makes stuff uncounterable, but the creature itself can still be countered. So let's go for Auramancy instead. So now Sythis won't be able to be targeted. Could have played land first to play around a counter unless you pay 2. And then, yeah, I can still cast the Seal away even if there's no targets, just to draw with Sythis. But I may want to just surveil end of turn. Opponent with a Chemister's Insight to draw 2. So if they tap out for Teferi, we can maybe tap out for one of our finishers. It's going to be a borrowed time on Auramancy instead. That's fine. So I'll just surveil. And the swords is not needed. Alright, Destiny Spinner, that's the card I was talking about. So if I cast it, they kind of have to counter it. And then I can Banishing a Light Auramancy, since we can't target the borrowed time. Could also save Banishing a Light for Teferi, to be honest. It's an interesting spot. Could also just jam one of my bigger finishers and see what happens. And then maybe next turn I can double spell Spinner with Hallowed Haunting. That resolves. Don't even think I attack in case they have their own Seal away, since they seem to be an enchantment build. A land tax. Opponent has more lands than we have. Okay, so don't hate Destiny Spinner, see what we draw. Can expect the opponent to have some board wipes, of course. but can still cast Elk just to trigger some stuff. Hit our land drop. Still doesn't enable land tax. And Architect can attack. So we're prepared with Banishing Light on Teferi if it ever gets cast, but they might want to wait until they can better protect their Planeswalker. Opponent just jump-starting the Insight. So we can keep hitting our land drops. Can also look into Destiny Spinner, turning a land into a creature. But let's see here, opponent has 5, 6, 7 mana. That is Cyclonic Rift territory. So I may want to just attack first. I'm not going to send Destiny Spinner because it's pretty valuable. In case they can ambush it somehow. Opponent had to settle with a Wreckage. So that's fine. I guess that will enable land tax now. If we choose to get the lands, but I think it's worth it. So we got to ramp. And then now Hallowed Haunting is still uncounterable, so we can get that down. And hope they don't have something that destroys all of my non-land permanents, pretty much. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Could also play the Vitality first, then we miss out on a token. Opponent's gonna Swords the Spinner. So then they could still have a counterspell afterwards. They don't. Opponent gets to find some planes. Still have Nantuko with a fetch lane to get back on the board. And the Eidolon's actually relevant here, making their Planeswalkers cost more to activate. Shatter the Sky wipes the board, still have our enchantments. Okay. So step 1, Sythis. Now Sanctum Weaver looks good. Phelia does something that's indestructible, is great too. Just have to watch out for Farewell exiling all my enchantments, I guess. But yeah, I could bestow Nantuko onto Sanctum Weaver and then start copying it to make even more mana. Stuff flies. And do I need to do anything else? I guess I can play Authority. And then pass. A land tax not limited to getting planes, can also get basic island, as you can see. So no land drops will be missed. Teferi pluses. And then end of turn I can still fetch. Make another Sanctum Weaver if I'd like. So we get to untap with approximately 1,000,000 mana. A lot of lethal attackers. Opponents already cast their Settle. They don't have enough mana for kicked Cyclonic Rift. So what's left? Aetherize, bounce all attacking creatures. Can maybe dig for... I guess Curse of Silence is not going to be relevant because I can still pay for it. Anything else I can find? Probably doesn't hurt to just draw a bunch of cards here. Get some more triggers. Can maybe get Heliod down. Ossification also answers Teferi. Exploration lets me play more lanes. Doesn't matter what we target, not really. I'll say it for protection. At some point we'll tap Sanctum Weaver. I guess I could have Teferi's protection to phase out and essentially fog for the turn. So I guess we'll Ossification, see what happens. Target a basic so they can Demolition Field it. Alright, Charm to counter, or draw to rather. So they're just digging for Teferi's protection at this point. And they found it, or they had it to begin with. Alright, so won't be able to hit Teferi. Nor damage my opponents. So then I just want to set up for next turn, basically, assuming they wipe my board again. Sphere of Safety is fine. Still plenty of cards left in library. Wolfwillow Haven I can cast. May want to keep the Companion. Yeah, I don't think there's a card that can win me the game even if I draw every card in my deck. So I should probably not overextend too much. Yeah, I mean, we have everything we would possibly want. So can just pass with a bunch of cards in hand. Could impend some stuff, or we can hardcast the Overlords. Yeah, I'm gonna have to discard down to 7 anyways. But I think I stay put. Gotta discard 7. The Mana Elves can go. Seal Away can go. Maybe don't need Calyx. And Strength. Alright. So our opponent got to keep Teferi for an extra turn. We'll see what they can do with it. Now we have to start worrying about Cyclonic Rift as well. But we have plenty of lanes in play. Restoration, draw even more. But they'll only have 4 mana to work with. And there's no instant speed sweepers left. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough. We've got everything we would possibly want here. Alright, so we got to see this green-white enchantment deck in action, and Sythis is deservedly so, one of the Hell Queue commanders in Brawl, so that's often going to get paired against some of the other best commanders out there, but that's not a problem, because even among those Hell Queue commanders, it's probably one of the best ones, giving you reliable access to life gain and card draw. The enchantment deck kind of builds itself, you just get to include as much or as little interaction as you want, but there's a lot of enchantment payoffs out there that reward you for casting enchantments, more card draw effects usually, but also some nice payoffs like Hallowed Haunting and Sigil, which will make you an army of creature tokens to close out the game. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.